Our focus is going to be on institutional power. So SGA is unique from a lot of other student organizations because it's built into the structure of the school, and increasingly we're working as a coalition here to build SGA even more into the fabric of the school. Feel free to grab food as you come in. So this gives us a really great chance to leverage institutional power on behalf of kids and alongside kids. We're going to focus on 3 different kinds of institutional power tonight. One is School Family Community Council. Just out of curiosity, how many folks are familiar with that structure? Most of us. Okay, awesome. How many of you guys have had seen youth involved in School Family Community Council? So some, but fewer. Awesome, great. So that's the goal after tonight. We're going to talk about SGA constitutions and the way that that can be a tool to get administrative buy-in and sort of formalize the powers that your young people have. And then we're also going to talk about policy JJA. Some of you guys were at the December General Assembly. Who was there and was able to provide input before the policy JJA revision started? I remember Jocelyn was in those focus groups. Who else was there? Yeah, I remember Booker T was. You guys had like a big delegation with lots of opinions, which was awesome. So that policy's been revised now. It's in its early draft stages, and this is sort of the first chance that advisors will have to see it. So I got the legal department to let me bring copies of it as long as they're destroyed at the end of tonight. So
they're not talking about it at the next school board meeting, the first
They are, but they don't want the red lines to go out to people before the board actually sees them, but they gave me permission to show folks the red lines to get input on them.
Oh, I mean they're gonna like post it next Monday or Tuesday.
At the next policy committee meeting. Yeah, so, but they were gracious to let me bring them tonight so that you guys can kind of get a first look and give some feedback. Okay, School Family Community Council is under the auspices of Shar Hollingsworth. So Shar, feel free to come on up and let me know when I'm changing your slides.
Okay. Hi everybody. We're going to see how this goes and having my sweet little toddler here with me. So hopefully the pasta keeps her entertained for a little bit. But my name is Shar Hollingsworth. I'm a staff specialist in the Family Engagement Office. Was hired in June to lead the work of School Family Community Council. So School Family Community Councils, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here. Youth engagement and youth involvement and youth leadership is something that has been newly written into the policy, and so we're really looking for ways to streamline that, ways to get folks involved, young people involved in decision making in SFC Council. So I'm going to give a brief blurb of what School Family Community Council is, and then I'm going to invite my 2 SFC Council chairs up. We have 4 questions that I'm going to ask them just as an opportunity to hear a little bit about what School Family Community Council is.
Feel free to hold her if you need to. That's fine. Working moms are working moms.
Thank you.
No, please.
All right, so School Family Community Council. When I think about and talk about School Family Community Council, decision making and advocacy are the 2 key words that I make sure that I always mention. So School Family Community Council has been written into the board policy for 10 plus years. My role is new. So I say that in that I think it's very important that we are honest and transparent about where we are. You want juice? Girl, you don't drink juice that often. Why are you saying that in front of all these people? So we have had it into the policy for 10 plus years, but really a lot of my work has been listening, conducting focus groups with leaders, with chairs, with ILEDs, to see what we need to do to move forward. You can go next. So, wanting to provide a definition of school-based decision making, we, Haley included, just got back from a site visit to Louisville, Kentucky, because they have a really strong school-based decision making model that has been around for 20 plus years. And so our hopes is to really model some of what they are doing with our systems and structures that we create. So when thinking about decision making, I love you, baby. It is important that we are thinking about those that are affected by the decision, possess expertise in the decision, and are responsible for implementing the decision. So I provide that definition to really think about all of the stakeholders.
You're fine. You're fine.
I appreciate your reassuring smile.
Please, no. She's adorable.
She comes to like every SFC council meeting with me. Does excellent. Is like going to all these meetings with her dad, and I'm like, okay, we didn't have childcare. I was like, we got this. I got her. She's gonna just sit here and be fine.
I don't have toys in my bag.
You know? So just, I've named these three things because when we think about making decisions, it's important that we are intentional about who we are involving in those decisions. And I know that SGA, we're talking about involving young people, but also that every single one of us in this room has various roles at the school. And so how are we having conversations, inviting people into the conversation around decision making in our school? There are 4 main goals: academic achievement, family and community engagement, improving school climate and culture, and increasing attendance. So those are the 4 main goals around SFC Council. You want to sit, baby? We'll sit soon. What this ends up looking like is 4 different subcommittees where folks are reporting out on these goals in alignment with the school improvement plan, and really providing space for authentic collaboration, which is an area that I've been focusing on this year. It's not just sharing out, it's not just reporting out, it's how are we then pausing and allowing space for folks to actually be like, oh, I'm a community partner at Pratt Library, and I see a bunch of, this is a real life scenario, like attendance being an issue, and a bunch of students leaving to go to Pratt Library, and then the librarian being present, being like, cool, I actually see your students come to the library. What can we do? How can we, because we can't kick students out of the library. So then the principal, the attendance team is able to sit there and have conversations. That is what the hope of School Family and Community Council is, to bring all the funds of knowledge, to bring everybody together that cares about students into one space. You can go to the next table. These, you don't want her to video?
Oh, yes.
The camera. These are the members, the membership requirements. Only thing of note that is different is the 1 student for elementary school and the 2 for middle and high school. And so that's really the purpose today. Yeah.
For elementary middle schools, is it 3 students required though?
For elementary middle, we go with the higher grade band, so it would be middle, so you would do 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is really the purpose of like this conversation today, of like, what can we do to get students involved and SGA leadership. I hear you, baby. I hear you. SGA leadership being a kind of natural lead. These are our district priority goals. You don't have to look at that long. Come on up.
Can I ask a really quick question?
Yes.
So for the makeup of the school family council, so does that mean if those people aren't present, is it not an official meeting, or is it not an official SFC council, or is it still functioning but just incomplete?
That's a great question. It is still functioning but incomplete. So
Okay.
my guidance, if that were, or when that is the case, is not to stop the meeting, but to carry on. If it's something that you have to like vote on, like principal selection, budget engagement, if there's an actual vote, then you would need all folks present.
Really?
Yes. But if it is a typical standing meeting and not all the stakeholders are present, I actually have added a point on the agenda asking SFC council chairs to look at the stakeholder membership and be like, who is not present? How are we gonna fix this for next meeting?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for asking questions.
It's really good to know.
Yeah.
Quick question, with the student representatives, could they alternate, or does it have to be the same 2 student representatives?
In the future, they will be elected, and so in that case, it would be the elected representative. This year, we have not rolled out elections. So, this isn't written anywhere, but my guidance would be to try to have consistent membership. I think SGA is a great lead-in, and I also would encourage, if you are communicating with chairs or have a role in this, make sure that we're choosing voices that we might be missing as well. Like, so yes, SGA, and if you're choosing 2 members, perhaps an SGA member, and then somebody that maybe has the most office referrals, or, you know, like, making sure that we are not just choosing leaders, that we are listening to every single voice. Yeah.
My question is similar, but just expanded to everyone in the council. Is this like one set group of people? It's the same social worker, same BTU rep. Like there's an official council. It's not a rotating or changing thing.
Correct.
Okay.
And so and again, we're flying this ship, whatever that expression is, flying the whatever.
You're building while you're flying.
Yeah. Next year, the hopes is that we are finalizing our SFC Council guidance by the end of this year, and then elections will be happening. It's still, you must broadly promote the meetings, so the required membership is present, but then we have a room of this many people, but just only those members are able to vote on things. Yeah, great questions. I hear you, baby. All right, I'm gonna trace back to you. If you don't mind, just introducing yourself, sharing your role, and maybe how long you've been involved in SFC Council.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is SGA Advisor. I am currently at Park Heights Academy. I am the SFC chair at my school. And honestly, this is pretty new for me. This is my first time this year actually getting the SFC together and organizing everything as far as like the PTO and SFC and, you know, all of the groups where we come together.
Hi, I'm Jessica Hargest. I am from Brems Lane, formerly known as Brems Lane Bel Air Edison School. I am from the Brems campus. We do still have an SFC member from each school, so we're a little bit siloed just because we're two separate campuses. But I was involved as a secretary for our meetings for the past 3 years, and then this year I took over that responsibility at my school. So I've been there first. This is my 6th year finishing up.
Thank you. So I have 4 questions that we have just gotten. Really, these questions are based on feedback that I get often about SFC Council. So real quick, if you could just describe SFC Council in 3 words, what would you say for our audience?
3 words, I would say connection, compassion, and fulfilling. Those are my 3 words.
Okay, so I would say growing, evolving, and planning. Just because we're kind of switched gears, but hands changed.
What are some successes that, or I guess just one success that you have experienced with SFC Council?
So with SFC Council, with getting everybody together, there has been like a lot of connections. I'm originally a community school coordinator, so I'm working with the community anyway, but just bridging a gap and bringing the community in along with the parents and the teachers and just making those connections. High quality relationships is one, so now, you know, everybody kind of, we're affiliated with each other and we get to move forward with a lot of things.
So I would say at our school, one success that we've had this year is, well, A, that we got to be back in person. We weren't prior to that, and then B, through that we've added, so I separately had another component called family meals that we offer at our school. So offering those meals like really brought people in and kind of created a more homey, you know, that gave people time, parents and families time to connect, to get to know one another, so that they wanted to be there, they wanted to connect, they knew their friend was gonna be there, so it creates a different kind of environment. So it's kind of like an add-on, the SFC Council ends up being like an add-on instead of like the focus and the center, and the hope is that we continue to build those programs out and expand it so that more people are participating in art groups.
What is a challenge that you have experienced with SFC Council?
So for me, the biggest challenge is scheduling the meetings, because there's always gonna be one person that's on vacation or that can't make it that day. And so it's a variety between the community, the teachers, finding that one student that's on the SFC. It's kind of hard to get everybody in one room together at all times, every time with the meeting.
I would say that one challenge we face is getting consistent attendance. So we'll have a community partner that shows interest once or twice. But because I'd say like my lack of honestly time to have for that, I'm not great about following through with those community partners who are really trying to bring that engagement. We have lots of great ideas. And so I think a challenge is kind of finding hands to put those responsibilities into so that it doesn't all fall on just one person, that the council actually feels unified enough to be a council and kind of take on some of the ownership of those tasks instead.
Thank you. And then just for the sake of our audience, what is one thing, or one way that SGA advisors could collaborate with their SFC Council chairs at their schools?
I would say
I can see a definite overlap between having a student government association alongside the SFC so that they're making, some kind of kid-friendly decisions on an elementary level, but then having the ability to kind of really understand what are the actual decisions that are being made and how can the SGA act as a body to kind of influence or inform the Student Family Community Council in a way that helps us to grow. So just thinking about ideas of community partners, what kind of outreach do they want to see? What do they want to experience outside of the community? Who do they want to see at that table? I'm sure they have way better ideas than I could come up with because I can only think of what, my bubble and my world. So using their voice as to help influence the partners that's sitting at the table and their ideas.
Thank you. Any audience questions?
What's the makeup of your school family councils? Is it just teachers? Is it just parents? Like, how would you describe that?
So in the beginning, when the SFC first started, you get a list of everybody that should be included in the SFC in making decisions. And so I want to say, of course, it's the principal, the chair, teachers, maybe like 3 or 4 teachers, a BTU member, a para, a student, and maybe 2 community members. And I'm just guessing from the top of my head, but you're gonna people that tell you the makeup of the whole board and everybody that should be there.
And people can double count. Like a teacher that's a BTU member can be both?
They can't,
Okay.
yeah. That's a good question. And it's also, okay, if, like, you can be honest, if you don't have full membership, that's also an okay thing to say here too, like, this is who it is, but we're missing these community partners or these stakeholders, because that's the reality of where we are and trying to really build and make sure that full membership is a thing.
Would you?
Yeah, I would say definitely. We have, who regularly attend again are going to be a lot of the students in my class. Going to be that Family Meals program with them. So those are who are currently attending. There's a couple partnerships that we've made that were new. Historically, we had, the local library. We had, there's a community partner that does like energy work in the community that they're always looking because they have grants they receive for being partners with us. There's a local community organization that supports, through a church foundation, like they're helping us. They do community activities, so they're part of our community school community family council. And then again, our principal. There are parents that will come. There's staff. Some of the staff are parents also, so they'll be at those meetings. And then we do have students. We actually have. We end up, because that night we'll have the students there, so there are a lot of students that attend as well. But we really try to open it up. It's also, we offer it both virtually and in person. So again, we try to serve food because we want people to be in and make connections. But also we look to try to, we do a Zoom link or a Google Meet, and it's only an hour so that they know it's only gonna be an hour. And so we will have that so that other community members can feel comfortable in attending if they're unable to attend in person.
Thank you. How do you, whenever I've been involved in like the parent-teacher association kind of issue, it's more issue-based than gripes. So do you guys have like a focus that keeps it from turning into this is what I hate about the school session?
So for me, I do, I'll even start off with an icebreaker, like, what's your favorite thing about this school? And I kind of set the tone of my meeting. And it's actually funny because I do PT, I think I'm on my 4th one, and I've never had that happen. I've never had it become an issue or a complaint or like a, powwow where they want to complain, so.
Yeah. So just starting out with the icebreaker, you said it's been
A positive
Yeah.
icebreaker.
okay.
And then that's after something to be a meeting.
Okay.
So we have at our school, we have restorative practices, and so we have meetings around those. So when people are really upset, certainly they can come to those meetings, and that's kind of a more appropriate time. We don't have PTO. That is something that we've talked about building out and fleshing out a little bit more. We did ask for parent volunteers this year to try to see if we can kind of build some strength in the building and kind of have people that we can start to trust and rely on. At our meeting, our principal attends, so I know actually Ms. Collingsworth was there one night when we had a grandparent who was very concerned and had very valid concerns and questions, but kind of carried it too far. I just think it's a matter of making sure the person leading it kind of has tact and can say, I certainly appreciate your concern, and that's certainly something we could talk about in a private space, in a private time, but this is really about making, creating community, and then also one thing that I would often do to deal with this is task them with something that relates to what they're asking. Like, I would really love you to be a part of this and help you to make some decisions. Let me give you the information that you need, and then we can brainstorm ways outside of this setting to kind of like come up with some solutions to that. So they'll either buy in and do that, or they'll say, thank you very much for, you know, addressing my needs, and I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not willing to put my ideas forward and stuff.
Thank you. I know that we are out of time. I really appreciate the questions. Thank you all for hanging in with me. And I have 2 infographic flyers that I will give everybody, and I can also leave my contact information if you have additional questions, and if you guys are okay with your contact information. I'm putting you on the spot. But if you have specific questions, and then I will also, every single school that is present has an SFC council chair, and so I will be sending a connecting email to you and your chair, in case you might already know that, you might not know that. But that will be something just to like provide. I can't tell if you're happy about that. And you've been so like supportive of me, so but yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate you. Part of this is telling the story of SFC Council and how decision making, we truly need to create systems that disrupt systems that aren't working. And this is one mechanism with institutional leadership or power, thank you. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you.
Got a couple other forms of institutional power that are available for us to explore tonight. So first is constitutions. Just from a show of hands, whose SGA has a constitution or any form of written something or other? Okay, so like a third of us. That's awesome. So why is a constitution important? There's a few reasons. One, it's a living document, captures how your SGA functions, and so it helps you and your students hold yourselves accountable to having these consistent structures. It's also a way to ensure administrative buy-in. So if your principal has approved your constitution at the beginning of the year, they have signed off and said, yes, I agree, these are the powers that our SGA has. Okay, there you go. So it kind of can help, it serve as a tool to get everybody on the same page. Furthermore, in the student organizations policy that the district is working on revising right now, I'm working really hard to make sure that constitutions are a useful tool built into that policy, so that if a principal, for example, approves a constitution and then does not honor the SGA's rights under that constitution, then students have access to an appeals process, that there's some kind of recourse. So one of the biggest things that we heard, that ASCBC heard from folks in those focus groups that you guys participated in at the December General Assembly, was just this need for clear lines of communication to administrators, need for like really clear powers and what the SGA can do. And then the Constitution is a really useful tool to achieve that. What goes into a Constitution? A lot of stuff. If you're working on constitutions tonight, I have a bunch of tools for you. One of them is a checklist of things that might go into a constitution. Also, I'm seeing folks taking pictures of the slides. Just so you know, all the materials are accessible here. So if you scan any of those QR codes, they'll take you to the different pieces of this.
You got a question?
Yes.
I tried to scan it, it wouldn't allow me, it didn't have access to
Yeah.
it when I tried to scan this picture.
Good to know. I will fix that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, from an equity lens, this is a couple things I'm going to lift up too. There's not a lot of research into student government, but the research that I have been able to find, I think these are 3 points that really stuck out to me. So, low socioeconomic status public schools are half as likely to have an SGA with a constitution as our wealthier counterparts. Urban and low SES public schools are more likely to define the purpose of SGA as event planning compared to school governance. So again, relegating kids to decisions that are not meaningful as opposed to giving them real power over budgeting, teaching and learning, school policy. And then the last point, urban schools are the most likely to apply strict adult-controlled eligibility criteria for SGA. So I think this really connects to the fact that so much, Char was talking about disrupting institutions that aren't working for our kids, right? And we know that a lot of our schools invest a lot of energy in controlling the bodies of young people, particularly Black young people. And so I think when we're thinking about who gets to be an SGA and who doesn't get to be an SGA, that comes into play with our Constitution. So if you do the Constitution workshop tonight, or even if you don't, I have a set of equity questions that you can use to compare against your Constitution and see, like, how are we thinking about who we are intentionally or unintentionally excluding from participation in school leadership. I'm about to go and talk about the policy stuff, but does anyone want to pause and ask questions about the Constitution workshop tonight? So that is a chance for you can bring any level. If you've got a Constitution you want to revise, if you've got some ideas, if you just want to get some support. And Maya Wilson, SGA Advisor Extraordinaire from City, will be co-leading that workshop with Ellen, who's on our Constitution Committee for ASCBC. Any questions about that opportunity? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, just real quick. On one of your slides earlier, you had a student government policy posted. Is that in the board policies?
Yeah, so that's a different workshop. I'm gonna talk about that one now. So perfect segue, thank you. So policy JJA is a school board policy that currently exists. It's student organizations, although we're thinking about changing the title, student organizations and governance. It covers all student orgs, student-led organizations, and student government is gonna be incorporated into this policy as well. So I'm on the work group in central office who's putting this policy together, and I'm really excited about it. I think what we have presently is groundbreaking, and I think it can be even better with y'all's feedback. It can substantially increase the power of our students if implemented faithfully. If you were at December General Assembly, like I mentioned, your feedback has already been incorporated into the initial revision. If you weren't, or if you want to have further opportunity to look at it and see, what came out of that, this is a chance to do that tonight. The first revision, this document that I'm bringing to you guys tonight, will go in front of the policy committee on March 21st, and you'll have a chance tonight if you'd like to give feedback on it. Yeah, and just to give you a preview, the things that are in that is the mandate to include a student rights and responsibilities handbook, as well as increased support and power for all student organizations and specifically student government. I'm gonna also fold into that workshop because Quinn wasn't able to make it tonight to lead the rubric review, so I'm gonna fold that in with the JJA workshop. So part of this policy is creating a rubric that student governments can use to evaluate themselves and measure how are we doing building our young people's capacity internally and affecting school governance within our school and getting involved on the city and state level. So I've drafted a rubric that I think reflects some of the best practices I've seen as I've visited your guys' SGAs and had the opportunity to work with you. But I would love to get feedback from you guys and hear, to what extent you think it reflects actually what a good SGA looks like. So we'll have 3 workshops instead of 4. Again, these 2 will be squished together. And you're welcome to rotate as you like. So if you just have a quick question you want to ask Shar, you can pop over and talk with her. If you want to just take a quick look through the policy and then go really work on a constitution, you can do that. So sort of choose your own adventure tonight. Constitution workshop is going to be on the other side of the bookcases. So in a second when we disperse, you can help yourself to the materials and the expertise over there. JJA workshop will stay over here. So, and then Shar, Shar's over there. So just find Shar if you want to talk with her about School Family Community Council. So any questions about those 3 options? Okay, so that'll be the bulk of our evening. We'll wrap up at 6:10. I'll have a quick feedback form they'll ask you to complete and a couple announcements, and then we'll disperse at 6:30. So feel free to help yourself to whichever, any more food, head to your first workshop, and we'll get started in just a second with JJA over here.
I'd just like to say one thing to the folks at Mervo. This is really, really nice.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
Oh, Marvo cooked it? Yeah.
And this is something that I would really, really like to see happen in our place on the other side of the city, but, you know, I'm a pastor. But anyway, kudos and shout out to you guys for, you know.
We'll let the kids know. A lot of our SGA members are actually in the cooking program, so they probably.
Tell them kudos from Mr. Frederick.
Yeah.
I just I have to leave.
Is there anybody else who knows they have to leave a few minutes early? Okay, great. So I'll just make sure I send it, just so you know, just if you ever have to leave early, I'll send out materials the next day. So if you could just make sure to fill out the review thing. Okay, so who's going to the workshop station? All right, head over that way. You'll be under the, you can stop. Had from your workshop, because I know people were doing different things this evening. So it'd be awesome if I can have maybe, let's start with Constitution folks. People who were over with Ms. Wilson and Ellen. Is there anything that you were taking away from that workshop thinking about your Constitution for your SGA?
I know Reach is just getting started making our Constitution, so I just got a really good example from like the city model for the Constitution. But I was also introduced to the idea of like committees, which I mean I knew existed, but getting specific ideas and like seeing that path, I just feel like I have a good plan now. Awesome. And I feel like my students can make like a good Constitution on their own. Our students, unfortunately, our entire history like discipline, like we have all subs, so the kids don't know a lot about government, so it's good that they have like a Constitution that maybe I can give them and they can look at and revise and build their own versus just straight from scratch.
Great.
Do you have that like somewhere linked?
Yep, it's all available virtually, and I'll send it all out.
Okay, awesome.
After.
Thank you.
Yep, every material that you touch tonight, you'll get virtually. Except for the ones that say do not reproduce. Maybe one more insight from the Constitution workshop?
Not related directly to the Constitution, but something I gained from the workshop was about the town hall meeting. So my kids are like very so involved in their own school, but I want them to see like the bigger like connections they can make across the city. So getting them involved in that, and because it's on Zoom, I don't have to worry about transportation for the kids, which would be amazing.
Cool. Okay, yeah, awesome. And let's talk about policy stuff. So folks who were in the policy workshop, any insights or thoughts bubbling up for you?
So one thing that came to my head was I had more questions about if the children decide that they want to express themselves, freedom. Because I'm the legislative secretary for BTU, I know that there is legislation right now that is looking at how do they not penalize children that do walkouts and things of that nature. So I think that there needs to be more a definition of what disruption to learning is, because if I decide to walk out of class, it's not disrupting his learning, it's disrupting my learning. I'm the one that's walking out, so how is that? I want them to really clearly define what that means and what the penalties for what that would look like.
Awesome. Did you write?
I wrote that down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One more from the policy workshop.
As we were coming to the end, I'm gonna take my brother point over here, ensuring that this policy brings continuity, no matter the changes of the physical people in the schools, like making sure that covers that, and in fact makes it more cemented. That way, no matter who steps in as advisor, no matter who steps in, it'll keep going, especially if it is a strong SGA, strong student organization.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I have some quick announcements for you guys, and then we'll close with a final reflection. I know I've asked you guys to scan a lot of QR codes tonight, so thank you for your patience with that. So some just reminders about AUs. And if you have any follow-up questions for me, I'll hang around afterward tonight to talk about AUs with you as well. All of the requirements, you have the materials for that, but the thing you need to be keeping in mind, your next website draft deadline is March 30th, which is in a couple weeks. So please be sure that you've updated your website. If you turn it in for the first draft deadline, that you've added what you've been working on. Any ASCBC events or mask events that you've gone to, please be sure to include those. And if you need any help with the actual technology side, please let me know sooner rather than later, because I'm happy to work with you to set your website up. Maybe I can come to your SGA meeting and then work with you on your web, whatever works. But yes, any questions about the website?
I just have a really quick about the mask participation. If we did not sign up for mask and we did have no plans to participate, is it possible to get 6 AUs?
I'm gonna be as generous as I can possibly be. I have to fall within the AU guidelines as they've been approved by the Joint Oversight Committee. So I would say the rubric says city and state level involvement. So for example, if you guys have done state level work advocacy with your students in another capacity, include that. And I'll do the best I can to give you as many AUs as I possibly can. That's kind of not a full answer, but.
That's a good answer.
Okay. Just a quick show of hands, how many folks were at the General Assembly? Okay, most of you guys. So then let's do this. I'd love to get some quick feedback from you all. You're welcome to fill it out this way. This would be great because that way members of ASCBC will be able to see it. But I'd also love if we can do that and maybe talk through it at the same time. Was there anything that jumped out to you guys like, yes, this is what we need to be doing, or other things that you felt ASCBC should be working on to improve for spring General Assembly?
The glows are that the students got to meet other students from SGA. That's how I promote it, is that they meet people from schools in their city. So keep that up, maybe have a mixer added where it's just them talking, it's not a structured workshop. Even if it's for 45 minutes.
You guys missed that at the beginning because your bus was late.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they did do that, but I totally get your point.
Yeah, where they're just talking and maybe do like a game where they're forced to talk. My only role, and I already asked you this, but that's like when we went to the state down in Glenburn, we had something advisors, especially those who are needing support in certain areas, just like, even if it's just one workshop on one topic, if you can't, for people power to have all the group, but the only advisor workshop is recruiting this assembly, but next assembly, it'll be constitution, like how you did workshops here, it could just be one at the General Assembly for advisors.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
That means I'm gonna be asking one of you guys to lead that workshop, just FYI. Because I'm gonna be running around like a chicken with its head cut off the whole time, but yes. Awesome, any other feedback?
I think for me, I don't know if it's just the sessions that my students ended up at, but I felt like they weren't so middle school geared.
Okay.
And I only have middle school students, so I don't know if like there was a way to like code them where you could write like middle school specific or like geared towards middle school. I also would really like one that was like, I don't know if I missed it either, cause like the students only picked the one that like are centered towards like new SGAs. Because I think like the beginning can kind of be bumpy and like we're still figuring out what that looks like in March, so it would be great to like, even if it was like a space where like we all collapsed. But the two sessions that I really enjoyed was the kid who was doing the journalism one, his presentation was amazing. And then the other group I saw was like a group, I forget, it was from the alternative school, and they were like very entertaining to watch too. Both of them were really great, yeah. And my kids enjoyed those two specifically.
Awesome.
Here's a thought, just after talking with a couple of people that feed us at Patterson, and this would be a challenge to do, but maybe getting kids the underclassmen who are gonna be with SGA next year, when they're at an assembly with middle school kids, to maybe identify some of the schools that will be coming, have students coming to your school the following year. Sort of like with an outreach and maybe creating like a little bit of a connection.
That's a cool idea. That's a really cool
Cause they've been
idea.
trying to do that, Patterson's been trying to do outreach to 237 or over at John Rural. They've had our JO club do that, Kelly Bagdasarian. I mean, we're all such huge ESOL sites that there would be, and there might be something else to do, maybe this is for later on, but trying to get more and more of the students' families to come and be a part of the student school family community council too. That probably would take an awful lot more work and drive too, but just a thought.
Thank you for that feedback, and I know folks have other stuff to say. If you could write it down, that'd be awesome. I wanna make sure I let you guys out right on time, or a couple minutes early. Thank you for that. And just to kind of prep you guys, or set expectations, the spring general assembly is gonna be more legislative in nature, just by virtue of where we're at in the year and what needs to happen with some major constitutional revisions for ASCBC coming out of the student commissioner bill that's currently in the Maryland General Assembly. So we will have sessions, but they're gonna be more tailored toward legislation. So just to prime you guys, we're making it fun, but it might be a little more, it was already a beautiful, beautiful nerd convention, and it might be even more of that this time around, just to let you know. Okay, so tentative date for spring general assembly is May 22nd. I think that should be okay based on the academic calendar, and I wanna note, that means that it's gonna be geared more towards juniors and younger. So seniors may be gone by then, and that will be gone by then. Okay, so that's okay. This is an opportunity to build capacity for your leaders coming up for next year.
That is right in the middle of the MCAT testing window though.
Okay, that's what I was worried about. So
the window for MCAT testing closes on the 26th.
closes on the 26th.
Yeah.
So would it be better to do it after the 26th?
I mean, if you want me there,
Okay.
it's better, because I'm still testing
Can
coordinator.
you just get a general, if folks agree with that?
Yeah, that would be better.
Okay,
We also have some random folks.
so after the 26th, okay. Good to know.
What day's our future? Okay.
Cool. That's good to know. That's why I put it up here as tentative, because I knew that things could be an issue. I have quite a few calls to action for you guys tonight, but what I'd love for you to do is just take the rest of our time this evening to complete this closing reflection. And really what I'm asking you to do is share what are you gonna, from tonight with your constitution, with the policy work that we've been doing, what are you gonna take back to your SGA in the coming weeks to try to help your students leverage institutional power more effectively at your school and in the district?
And
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just had a follow-up question. The policy that you gave us to look at tonight, that is also the same policy that I've gotten 3 emails today about asking me to give feedback on?
Probably not.
I think it is. Because one came out from the BTU feedback, they're asking for feedback on.
It'd be really interesting if the BTS was active, because I don't know about that stuff, but it'd be cool.
I think it is. I think it is too.
It's about JJA?
Yep, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's cool, but I would like to communicate with them so that we're also getting that feedback, because they haven't talked to our work group.
So like my principal sent it to me, then I got it from my ULR, then I got it from the BTU. I'm like, then we came here and you're talking about, I was like, okay, people want me to look at this.
Yes, they do. Well, I really want, folks, I want you guys to look at it in particular because you're gonna be the ones primarily responsible for implementing it. Yeah, and what I will say is I'm surprised that that's what they're sending out, because this policy that I shared with you tonight hasn't gone out to the BTU yet.
I'm pulling it up right now.
So it may be, I mean, there's a bunch of policies in the works right now, so it could be a different one.
It specifically says they're asking the SS staff for feedback on developing a student handbook that lays out student rights and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Tomorrow and Wednesday.
The one I have here is JJA Student Organizations, virtual consultation sessions with the BTU members regarding board policy, JJA revision, student organizations, and student organization handbook. And it's tomorrow and Wednesday, they're having virtual feedback
But the
sessions.
union is hosting.
I'll forward it to you.
Please do. So that's really interesting. I'll try to get ahead of that ball tomorrow because I would like to be in that room getting your guys' feedback, and also I don't know what they're gonna be asking for your feedback on if they don't have the policy to share with you, but we'll connect, I'll connect with them.
Going back to the spring meeting, when would the date be finalized if we're not gonna do the 22nd because it's in the MCAP window? Or are we still gonna go with that date?
We're not gonna go with the 22nd if it's in the MCAP window. The MCAP window is not posted on the district calendar, so I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm sure this overlaps with somebody's study schedule, but.
We have to for field trips, it's coming up the deadline that we have to submit all the field trip requests by at my school.
For the whole rest of the year?
Yeah.
Okay. If I can finalize it by the end of the week, would that be okay?
Yeah.
All right, so when you finish the closing reflection, please feel free to grab a plate of food because I can't take this home tonight. So like load up.
Be in so much pasta.
Bring food home for your partner, your children, your elderly neighbor.